Hello and welcome to the Furry Birdy Yoga Odyssey video log project. Way back in October, I decided to start a completely new Odyssey in my life. A new Odyssey. I decided to start a whole new path. I decided to go and get my yoga teacher certification and become a teacher for yoga, a yoga teacher. And there's been so many developments since that started. A couple of weeks ago, I taught an in-studio class to a bunch of strangers. And then the following week, I taught another. Sometime in March, the 8th maybe? That's a Monday. I teach another one. After I teach that third class, and I get a written evaluation from all of the instructors, and then what happens is I can start teaching like all the time. Like I can get on the substitute teacher lists, because that's a thing for yoga class. It's like a launching off point, you know. It's a stepping stone. It's important because it's the next major step, right? Like when you first decide to do it, and then you start doing it, and then let me start again. It is a waypoint. The first waypoint was deciding that this was something I wanted to do. The next waypoint was actually enrolling in class. I've taught classes before these two in-studio classes, right? I've taught classes for other people, but I had never taught them and been the person in charge. Boy, this video log is very concise, isn't it? I had originally intended to talk about what happened in those classes. I want to talk about something instead. What is the difference? I've taught classes before, and the verbiage that you use, like, I'm going to teach my first class Friday night, it wasn't a true statement. I had taught classes before then, but my mind kept trying to tell me it was my first class. So I spent a lot of time thinking about that and trying to discern why I thought it was the first. Why did my brain want to assign first to that experience? And the more I thought about it, the more the phrase, I'm teaching my first class, felt wrong. It'd be the first time that I was the sole responsible person in the studio. Highest ranking person. Everybody would defer to me. If there was a problem, they would defer to me. If there was a fire, somebody would defer to me. When there was money involved, they deferred to me. It was the first time I opened and closed the studio. I opened the studio for class when I'm in school, but it's not the same thing as opening the studio for a bunch of strangers, right? There's something different there. So it was the first time I was officially opening the school as a teacher. It was the first time I ever taught a class without a crutch. See, even when you're inside the school and you're teaching class to the other students, right, the other people who are trying to get their teacher's certificate, if you screw up really badly, you can just stop. You can just be like, hey, I screwed up. What did I do wrong? And there's another person there, the teacher, who's teaching that class, who can say, here's what you did right, here's what you could do better. None of that existed. It was the first time I ever took money for a class. First time I ever had to sign people in for a class. First time I had to lock the door and begin class. It was the first time I turned on the music for class. First time I set up my mat at the head of the class and set my space in the studio as my class. Even when teaching the practice sessions in studio, you start off sitting over there and amongst all of the students, and then as time comes when the teacher moves their stuff out of the way, and then you move your stuff over there and you occupy the space for a minute and you go yep, 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 and everybody twists their bodies into shape, and then you put all your stuff over there and you go back into the group. There are enough firsts that it set it apart. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge those things for myself. If I just tried to sweep it under the covers and say, this isn't my first class, blah, 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 blah. So that's what was different. And it was a really exciting, wonderful experience. I went with some people who are very important to me. And as we were leaving, critically important to me. And as we were leaving, I was saying, so how do you feel? Do you feel great? Do you feel excited? Do you feel this, that, and the other thing? And I said, you know what? I feel really calm. I feel like I just finished doing something that I had set out to do. I just finished doing my job. And they both told me that I could take that attitude and blow it out my ass. And I'm grateful for them both telling me that in different ways. The following Friday, I did another, where I opened up the studio and I set up the music and I set up my mat space and I took money and I did all of the things again for the second time. And I felt a lot more comfortable. I even played with the flow a little bit. For you, just so you know. I know you can't actually read any of this. That's what my yoga flow looks like. That is what we do in 75 minutes. And this little text block here, that's notes from me to kind of make sure I hold on to those ideas. And my notes go like this. My notes say, that I'm always on my mountain. That's absolutely true. I don't always remember I'm on my mountain. And what does that even mean? It means that's kind of like, that's a reminder to look within myself for a place of calm and a place of bliss. Because we can get caught up in events. And that's to remind myself. Number 2, be who you are. It's to remind myself to be true to me. And that was really important when I saw people doing their own thing on their mat. When I saw people looking all around because they didn't think my cueing was good or they were confused. When I wondered if people were if it was too tired, if it was too hard, or if it was too easy. You're gonna make mistakes. No matter what you do, no matter how much you prepare, you're gonna make mistakes. Be who you are. Fix those mistakes. Fix those mistakes later, but be who you are. You're enough right now. Teach your truth. Don't try to sit. This is my point of view for teaching a yoga class. Don't try to sit on your mat and try to teach someone something that you don't know. That's bullshit. You cannot teach someone something that you don't know. Teach your truth. Tell stories. All of teaching is context and relation. You need to form shared context with your students. And humans do that by telling stories. I mean, all a posture is a beginning, a middle, and an end. A whole bunch of them throughout a class, right? The beginning of a posture is you cue them. You tell someone what you're looking for. And in the middle of that is them finding and settling into that posture. Breathing into that space. Settling in. Focusing their mind internally, looking for internal tension, letting it go. And the end of that posture is when you say goodbye to that posture and you move on to something new. Tell stories. One of my breaths is approximately 12 seconds. I don't know if the one that I just did is 12 seconds. But what I did is I timed my breathing and I averaged 5 breaths. Why is that important? Because there's an awful lot of stuff to cover. And you need some way to gauge how long to be in each place. Some things you want to be in a little bit longer than others. So I used that to measure and gauge where people were. Talk less. When I get nervous that my message is not being understood, I try to rearrange things and talk more to try to make it accessible. And it's just not necessary. In this particular context, I've been refining how I speak to people for months. I've gotten a lot better at it. And if you get nervous, you might fall back on old tapes. And one of those is to talk and try to cue too much. Talk less cueing, and less options. There are many, many options in a yoga class. Many, many yoga postures have different options. I was cueing way too many of them. Let people settle into each posture, at least 2 of my breaths. That one's hit or miss. Not every posture is too... You don't want people sitting in Chaturanga Dandasana for 30 seconds. Or maybe you do. It depends on the class. I will talk more later about what actually happened in the classes. But there's some stuff surrounding the classes and surrounding how I feel about it. I'm still filled with chills when I think about it. I feel great. I'm excited. I'm very excited. It feels wonderful. It feels like finding a place that I can call home that's outside of myself. It feels great. I look forward to more of those opportunities to open a class, open a studio, and close the class. I'm not going to stop my vlog even after I graduate from school. I'm going to keep a vlog going of some kind. So yeah. Thanks for sharing this journey with me. It's been great. Life-changing. It will continue to be life-changing. So, all that is divine and light in me is appreciative of all that is divine and light in you. Namaste.